this is how to build the MotorHead HD on the JonyJib. The first thing we want to do is mount the MotorHead HD controller. So we're going to put this on the left side of the jib. So the bottom of this has 4 possible screw holders, 2 positions. So you want to go in the vertical one here that's aligned with the handle and make sure your handle is facing this way. And then what we're going to do is just thread this through. And there, now the MotorHead HD controller is attached to the end of the jib. And we're also going to attach the lens controller to the right side of the jib. So the MotorHead controller is on the left, the lens controller is on the right. And it attaches the same way. So you've got the same 4 screw holes and the same bracket. And there, now we have our lens controller also attached to the end of the jib. And now that we have both controllers attached, it's time to attach the actual head unit with the motors. So we're going to configure this so it's underslung, and that means that the head will be attached so it's underneath and hanging like this instead of over, where it would be like that, and then up above. So that's the difference. That's overslung, and then that is underslung. So we're going to use the provided 3/8/16 knob to secure the motor head unit. Now, during this process, you want to make sure that your motors are completely separated from the gear so that they're not making contact while allowing everything to move freely. Next, you want to get familiar with the center point of gravity on your camera. So this will help you with the knowledge when you go to balance it and position the plate on the end of the jib. So I got a pen here. Make sure it's a perfectly round pen or any kind of round dowel or object. And I'm just going to put it underneath my tripod plate here. I've got a VCT plate. And I'm just going to see kind of where it wants to go. So see, if I go like this, it immediately wants to go down. So like somewhere around right there, which means it's going to be right in here. So I'm going to look for lining it up right here, which means on the plate, when I take this off, I'm going for this indent right in there. If you notice, that's where it seems to line up. So that's what my marking is going to be. And that's kind of where I'm going to start for my center of gravity. So now we're going to attach the tripod plate. I'm going to line up the center with as close as I can find to the center of gravity. Now I'm putting this one in just because the payload is so heavy, but realistically you want to be able to slide it along to balance it a little bit, so we'll start there. Then we'll slide it back a little bit. So one thing you gotta watch with these VCT plates is that you don't overly tighten, because if you do, you could be actually drilling the screw all the way up into the mechanics of the sliding locking mechanism. All right, so we're going to attach the nucleus to the lens. So you want to orient it so that the thumb screw is on top. And then this is going to go on top as well, like that. So we'll put our carbon fiber rod in. Slide that on. And we can probably tighten the rod at that point. And then this can slide up and down however we need. Just gonna loosen this and push it forward a little bit. And here it is, and you can see it's making contact. If I rotate that, you get focus moving. So we should be all set. Now what we want to do is move the center of the camera body to about this line here, center on the axis. So what we're looking at is about getting the 70 mark up to here. We're at almost 35 right now. So to do that, we just turn this knob and keep working with the height until it reaches there. So to really get this as close as possible, what I've done is remove the lens cap to also make it as simulated as possible to what the actual load is going to be. The only thing missing at this point, like I said before, is our cable package, which will impact this, but at least we're very close now. How I know I'm very close to perfect balance is by how I aim the camera. So if I point the camera down, it stays pointed down. If I point the camera up, it stays pointed up. And why this matters is, what this means is it's taking all of the work off of the motor. So the motor's only going to have to lightly work to keep the camera tilted at the angle that we want. And in case you are curious, I ended up being at 90. The next thing you want to do is connect the motors, and the longer Y cable is the one for the tilt arm motor, and the shorter one is for the pan motor up above. And what you want to do during that connection process is just fish it through the opening. It's a 1-inch opening. And from there, you just want to connect that 5-pin cable and run it down the length of the jib. Now what you want to do is install the high-rose cable so we can control the zoom on the lens. And what I'm going to do is just feed that other end through. So the extension cable, I'm going to feed the male end through because we've got the female end right here. So we'll go right through the motor. And then to connect it, we're simply looking for this little groove that's right up there. And that lines up with the groove in the top of the female connector coming from the camera. So we just go right in like that. Push them together and then lock it in. Get a little slack like that. And then you want to route that wire through the rest of the jib, just like your other wire. And next you want to hook the extension 1 port up for the control of the focus on the nucleus. So we're just going to do that. Snap that in like that. And then one of the things I did was I just put a little tie around the wire to secure it on this side of the carbon fiber rod so it doesn't touch the lens, and then also to keep the weight from shifting and to still give it a little slack. So I just fed that connector all the way through, and then of course ran it through the rest of the system just like the other cables. And of course, once you have your connections all made at the other end, you want to go ahead and counterbalance the load. And in my case, what I discovered is so far without the fiber cable, I am at about, I'd say, 132.5 pounds. And then once again, you want to check your balance after all your cables are on. So to do that, I'm going to simulate what it would be like in an actual production environment. So I'm going to take the lens cap off. I'm going to disengage the gears. And see, now I've got more weight in the back. So I need to bring that forward because that cable with the fiber connection adds weight to the back. So you see how that looks. That seems pretty good. And now it stays where it wants, level on the platform as well, when you have it not just pointing but level like that. Once the balance is all configured, it's safe to engage the tilt motor back to the operating position. So to do that, we're just going to lock it in and bring that down. So we loosen those 2 thumb screws. Thread it with the teeth of the gears. Make sure they're making good contact. And we tighten it on there, and it's all set. Make sure to configure the jib motors for the proper lens type that you have. So in this case, we're going to be working with the Fujinon lens, so we're going to switch to Fujinon instead of Canon. Because this is not a cinema camera, you want to make sure your switch is in the video position, and then you want to turn it on so we can work with the nucleus at the other end. Now what you want to do is you want to move the Tilta Nucleus away from the lens so we can first program it. That way it's not going to control and damage any of the lens. So you turn it on and it's going to spin, and that's why we moved it away. And then you're going to hit menu twice. So you hit menu twice, then you use the plus and minus buttons. You want to go to wireless, press enter. And then you want to use the minus to tell it off. We don't want wireless control. And then after that, you want to go to the menu buttons. Again, motor number 1, and you want to hit. That looks good. And then you want to go to the calibration mode once you put it back on the gears. So for the calibration mode, you want to enter that and make it a manual start. And then what you do is you go to menu, and then you hold calibration right here for 3 seconds. And now it's going to calibrate the stops on the lens. Now it's calibrated. Make sure you use the thumb screws to engage the pan motor, just like you did the tilt motor. And lock them in, tighten them. To control zoom and focus, you had a zoom rocker on top, and you can control the speed of that movement using this knob here. And then you've got another dial underneath that you can use to focus your image. So you can take a finger underneath as you're using your thumb on top. So I'm taking my index finger underneath and controlling my dial down here for focus while using my thumb for the zoom rocker. And you can focus them as well, just like you can set your zoom speed. To control the pan and tilt of the camera, you've got this joystick on the left side. So you hold it with your left hand and use your left thumb to basically go left, right, up, and down. And you can change the speed, the ramping speed, and you can change the direction of your pan and tilt as they are aligned with the joystick control. So if you want something opposite of what you're expecting, you can just flip the switch and it'll change to the opposite direction when you're pressing the joystick. If you find that the lens on your jib starts to drift when you let go of the zoom, or same thing with the focus, there are fine adjustments on the underside of the controller that you can use to reduce and resolve that issue. And with that, your JonyJib motor package should be all set for use.